Hey, we have finally arrived at HyperV. While HyperV is not a new feature in Windows Server 2012, it is for sure a reborn feature. It is actually one of the most important roles that are part of the whole Windows 2012 OS because, of course, it plays very well in Microsoft's plan for a cloud-ready OS with all the new improvements that they brought to it. And speaking of improvements, let's see a couple. Now we have a lot of PowerShell commandlets that we can use to automate things in HyperV, like creating and managing virtual machines. We have a VM replication that is known as HyperV Replica, which you can use to replicate a machine from one server to another, even if the second server maybe is on one link in a different geographical region. We have also memory improvements for the virtual machines themselves, which we will see a little later. Shared Nothing Live Migration, I think, is a very interesting addition. With this feature, you can migrate a running VM from one HyperV server to another without having shared storage or shared anything basically. You only need a network. In 2012 we also have a new VHD format, the VHDX disk, that improves a couple of stuff from the old format, like improved space, improved performance also, and other things which we will see. We have resource metering that is also new, with which you can get statistics for your virtual machines and use for billing your customers, or maybe just keeping them for your internal use, maybe in a database, or just reading them when you need to. And there are many more features added to HyperV, and also new features in 2012 that HyperV can use. Let's quickly talk about dynamic memory. So I said there are a couple of memory improvements in 2012 for virtual machines. Well, one of the things that I want to mention are the three types of memory you can assign to a machine. First, there is the startup memory. So that is the RAM that a machine is allocated at the first minute when it starts up. So first there is the startup memory, which is the memory that a machine is allocated when it starts up, maybe in the first minute or so, because usually a machine needs more RAM at startup than it needs when it is in the idle state. The minimum memory, as it sounds, is the minimum amount of RAM that the machine will be allocated, and usually this will happen when it's in the idle state. And the maximum memory will be the higher limit for RAM for that virtual machine. And with these three memory types, you have a very good way to improve the memory usage on your host. And speaking of disks, also I want to mention the two primary types of virtual disks you will use. Fixed disks are the ones that when you create them, they will be allocated the whole space that they should have. So if you have a 20 GB VHDX, it will get 20 GB on the host storage. And dynamic disks only occupy at first a very small amount of space, and as the disk gets files and folders stored on it, it will grow on your host storage until it gets to the maximum allowed space. Networking is also a very big part of HyperV and a very big part of additions in Windows Server 2012. And for HyperV we have a brand new virtual switch that was added, And we can create 3 types of switches with which you can control the degree that a virtual machine can access or not external resources. First, we have the external switch that connects to one of your machine's network cards, and this permits any virtual machines that are connected to the switch to go outside of the server to talk to the external network. The internal switch limits you a little. It allows the virtual machines connected to it to talk with the host, but not to talk to any outside devices from that host. And private switches are private. The machines connected to those switches can only talk amongst themselves. Also new in 2012 are the server SKUs, actually the licensing that applies to Hyper-V related to these SKUs. For Windows Server 2012 standard, for example, you get a license, and that license will permit you to install also 2 virtual machines with Windows Server 2012. With Data Center, you get an unlimited number of virtual machines with 2012 that you can install. And Microsoft also offers the Hyper-V Server variant, which is a standalone Windows version that only supports Hyper-V on it, but does not have any licenses for virtual machines, Windows virtual machines, and it is also free. In the next video we will start to play around with Hyper-V and with a lot of the features, and I suggest, if you want to follow along, to install a Hyper-V host for yourself. Mine will be called HV01, and I will link in the description a quick tip that I made about how you can enable Hyper-V on a virtual machine, because it's not straightforward. If you like the video, then please like and share, subscribe if you're not subscribed, and I'll see you in the next one.